Good morning, everyone. It is 10:30, so we are going to go ahead and get started. You may see messages from the lovely Kelly Van Noppen. She is a naturalist at the Natural History Center and is co-hosting this webinar, so you might see her answering your questions or asking you some questions, possibly. My name is Bailey, and I am also a naturalist at the Montana Natural History Center, and I'm so glad that you're all here and we get to kind of virtually explore seeds together this morning. Let's go ahead and get started. If you could please tell us where you're from. Where are you signing in from today? It looks like we've got a couple folks from Idaho, which is pretty exciting. Got some out-of-state friends joining us today. Let's see if anybody else, if you have not used the Zoom webinar feature before, there's a chat box at the bottom of your screen and you can type that in, and to get it to send, you just hit the enter key. We've got some folks from Helena and Missoula. Welcome everybody. So glad you're here. Thanks so much for being with us today. Very good Montana representation. Looks like Northwest Iowa. Wow, that is exciting. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, everybody. I'm glad to have you all with us today. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're talking about seeds today. And the first question is, what is a seed? A seed is the part of a plant that can grow a whole new plant, which is pretty exciting to think about, that every tiny seed could grow a whole new plant. So let's talk about where seeds come from. Seeds come from flowers. We all know that plants have flowers, right? Flowers get pollinated. So maybe like this dandelion in the picture here, we might see a bee come and visit that dandelion, or possibly a butterfly, maybe even a bat at night. As these pollinators come visit these flowers, they are going to bring pollen from other flowers to those flowers. And inside of every flower, there are little tiny eggs. And those little tiny eggs receive that pollen and turn those eggs into seeds. Here we've got a picture of the dandelion seeds, those little tiny umbrella-like things that help them float in the air. Have you noticed any flowers outside lately? We're going to do a quick poll to see what everybody has been noticing. A little poll should have popped up in your screen. Have you seen any flowers outside lately? We've got yes, a few, yes, a lot, sounds like so far. Oh, it's looking like a lot of us have seen a lot of flowers. This is pretty exciting. Give a few more seconds to let everybody answer. All right, someone hasn't seen any flowers yet. Maybe they're a little higher in elevation and haven't had any of that warm weather that's helping all these flowers to bloom in our area in Missoula. All right, looks like most people have seen a lot of flowers already, which is pretty exciting. All right, moving on. What is it that means that seeds need to move? So if I am a maple tree and I have all of these little maple seeds, why do I not want them to fall at my feet? Why would I want them to move a little bit farther? What would be a reason that seeds need to move? Go ahead and type the answer that you come up with into the chat box. Why would a seed need to move? As the mother maple tree, if I had all of these little seeds around my feet, why would they not survive? Why is it that they would need to move? Looks like they need to land where they can grow best. Some space, they absolutely need space. It'd be really hard to grow in the exact same spot. Yeah, definitely need space. Thanks for all your answers. Ooh, they would die without sunlight. That's absolutely true. And we don't want the roots to tangle up in mine. Great point. Thanks so much for joining in the chat box with all those answers. Got a few pictures. Like you said, the sun, they need to have sun in order to survive. They also need to have water. And if I am the big, tall tree with super deep roots, I'm going to pull up most of the water. So they need to be far enough away that their roots could also get water. They need to have nutrients, just like humans. They need to have food and things that help them to survive. They also need to have that space that a lot of you mentioned, because a tree is going to get really big and have wide branches, and they would get all tangled up together if they were too close. Great answers, everybody. How do seeds move? Now that we know why they move, we need to figure out how. Seeds might move by using the wind, they might move by using the water, or they might have animals help them. Let's look at a few different types of seeds. Now your job is to think about, of these 6 seeds that I just put, these 6 plants and seeds that are on your screen, which of them might move by using the wind? Which one would rely on the wind? Go ahead and point to the one or the ones that you think would use the wind to help them move. I'll give you the answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The dandelion, a couple of you said that, and then that maple samaro, the thing that kind of looks like a mustache. A lot of people call those helicopters, and they are the seed from a maple tree. And as the wind blows, it's going to spin them around and hopefully pull them to a new place. Nice job, everybody. What about the water? Which one of these looks like a plant that would use the water to help it move its seeds? I'll give you the answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The cattail. Oh, and it looks like someone said that cattails also use wind to move, and that's definitely true. They live really close to the water, so they might have the wind help to push the seed out and then transfer itself in the water. So they would probably use both. You're absolutely right. What about having animals move them? Is there anything you see that might rely on an animal to help it move? 3, 2, 1. All 3 that are left. Oh, it looks like we've got a lot of answers coming in. Nice job, everybody. Those burrs down at the left, the nut to the top right, and the blue berries that are on there, all 3 of those use animals to help them move. Let's look a little bit more at that. So of those 3 that need animals to help them move, what are some of the ways that they would do that? Attachment means it might attach to something's clothing or fur to help it to move. Hide or bury, a creature might want to save it for later and hide it or bury it. And if they forget about it, it might grow because it was hidden in the dirt. Eat and scat. This one is pretty fun. That means that it is hidden inside something that's really tasty, and an animal might eat it, and then it comes out in their scat, which is like a nice little pile of fertilizer that gives that seed a jump start into growing. So looking at these, which one do you think would attach to an animal to help it move? You can type your answer in the chat box, point to it on your screen, or just think about it in your head. Ooh, a lot of you are saying burrs. You're absolutely right. We've got a picture of a dog covered in those spiky burrs. If you get your head pretty close to the screen, you might notice that those burrs, instead of having spikes at the end, they have little tiny hooks like this, and those hooks go kind of every other direction. So just like Velcro, they're going to attach by using those hooks that are all over the place. And Velcro was inspired by the burrs, which is pretty cool to think about, inventing something based on nature. We have a little squirrel that might be eating that nut. They also are really good at building these huge caches, which is a big pile of nuts. So they would spend all spring and summer and fall gathering nuts and putting them into different little holes. And if they don't eat them all over the winter, they might be able to sprout next spring. And the last one, who do we think might eat berries? A bird would definitely eat a lot of berries. And as they fly to a new place and digest, then they also scat. And those seeds can move to a whole new area. Bears do this, deer do this, all kinds of creatures eat berries. It is a pretty exciting way for seeds to move. All right, now it's time for you to think about what it would be like for you to be a plant. So if you were a plant, how would you choose to move your seeds to a new place? Think about it and type the answer in the chat box so we can share. If you were a plant and you got to spread your seeds in any way you can imagine, what would you use? Wind, water? Would you use animals to help you? Well, it looks like attachment, using the wind, using the water. Got a lot of good answers so far. Animals, water, wind. Thanks everybody for all of these awesome ways of moving your seeds around. Now that you have thought a little bit more about how you would do that, it is time for us to start planning. So if you don't have a piece of paper and a pencil, go ahead and grab that now. Bring it on back because we are going to write out a plan for how we would move a seed. This lesson is all about seed engineering, so we get to be the engineers that come up with a way to move seeds. And one of the best ways to do that is to write it out on paper, make ourselves a plan, and then we can go and do it. Let us know if you are back and ready to go. Ooh, it looks like one of our participants said that they would want their seed to explode. Ballistic dispersal is a really cool way for seeds to move we haven't talked about yet. Things like milkweed would be inside of a pod, and as those seeds got bigger and bigger and bigger, the pod just kind of bursts open and allows the seeds to get out into the air and move around, which is pretty cool. And a few of you mentioned things like fellow animals and wings, or I think maybe wind, would use animals and wind to help move their seeds. A lot of seeds do that where they put two different things together to make sure that they can move around. All right, so everybody has their paper and pencil. Let's get started. We are going to write, how would you choose to move your seed? So you just answered that question, so this one should be pretty easy to get started. I'm going to join you by writing how I would choose to move my seed. Does everybody have it, or do you need a few more seconds? Give you a little more time. All right, here's the harder part. What would your seed have to help it to move? So if you chose your seed to move with the wind, what would it need to help it to move in the wind? If you chose water, what would help it to float so it wouldn't sink? What would help it to float and be carried to a new place? What would you use if you wanted an animal to help you to move? I will say that we are going to test these. So think a little bit, if you chose animal, we probably wouldn't want to choose something to eat, or even to, probably attachment would be the best way to sort of test out our hypothesis. So think about how you're going to test it a little bit too. We're going to talk about that in a second, but I want you to think about it as you're designing your seed. All right. Next question to plan out. What materials do you have in your house that you could use to create this? I went down to my kitchen and I thought about what would be a good seed, and I grabbed a few different types. I grabbed some popcorn kernels, some rice, some flaxseed, and some quinoa. You might have something else in your house. Those are the ones I choose to use as my tiny seeds. Then I thought about which one would I want to test, and I decided to start with the popcorn kernel. And then I looked around for different things I had in my kitchen that might help me to create something to attach it to. And I found some tinfoil, and I found a little bit of wax paper, and my favorite, I found the outside of an onion, so the peel of an onion. And with those, I attached a few popcorn kernels. So now you get to think, what do you have in your house that would help you to create your seed? And we'll write those things down now. Ooh, got some good ideas coming in. All right, next question. How are you going to test your design? This one can be really a difficult part to think about. But if you chose wind, you might choose to go outside and drop your seed when the breeze comes by and see how far it travels. You might test yours by saying, I want my seed to go at least 2 feet away from me. You might come inside and use a ceiling fan or a small fan or a box fan, or you could even choose to test it by using your breath. So if I drop this right here, I want to see if it flies farther away from where I dropped my hand. I dropped it right here, remember? All the way over here. You can't even see how far away it went. And that was just by using my breath. So you might want to blow on it to test your wind theories. You might choose, if you thought about water, you might make a bowl full of water, put your seed in there and see if it floats for more than a minute or more than 10 seconds. You might choose to put your wind and your water together and see if you can blow your seed across the top of the water without it sinking to the bottom. And if you chose attachment, you might see if it attaches better to a t-shirt, to a sweater, maybe to a raincoat, or even something like a plate or a piece of wood. There's a lot of different things you could try and get it to attach to. All right, naturalists, let's hear what you're thinking. What have you come up with so far? Go ahead and give us a quick chat in the chat box. What are some of the ways you have come up with? We'll let you think about how you might test your designs. Maybe some of you will have some good ideas for me and for Kelly to be able to test our other seeds that we've engineered. All right. I'll give you a few more minutes. Ooh, someone wants to use their dogs in the wind to test their design. That's a great idea. Using one of your feathered or your fluffy friends to help you out. Someone mentioned using syrup. That sounds like it could get really sticky and really fun. Ooh, popcorn without a lid on it. That sounds like a pretty big explosion. I like that idea. We hadn't even talked that much about the ballistic type of seed dispersal. Someone else wants to try the popcorn in an onion skin and then try to heat it up and see if it pops out of the onion skin. That sounds really cool. These sound like things you might want to make sure your parents are around for. Use a pet and see how long a pet can hold it. I like that idea. Someone else wants to make a glider, let the wind carry it. Ah, this all sounds really cool. Well, now that you have all of your ideas, it's time to put them into action. So it's time for you to go and find yourself all of these materials, make your seed, and then test it out. One of the best parts about being an engineer, and especially being a naturalist engineer, is that you get to try something, and then if it works, how can you make it better? If it didn't work, how can you make it better? It's the same question no matter what happens. We get to try all kinds of different things. Maybe you could try putting your seed in the very middle, or maybe you could try putting it off to the side. Cutting a different shape might change how it performs. Does anybody have any questions for us? You can type those into the chat box or use the Q&A feature. And again, if you haven't used Zoom, if you type something in, you can hit enter. One thing that we would really love to have is to see all of your creations. So as you are making and testing these different things, we would love if you could tag the Natural History Center and use #naturalistmoment so that we can see what all you've come up with. We've got a couple questions here. Kelly, do you want to come on and answer those for us?
Yeah, we had a couple questions about the ballistic seeds. What kind of seeds use ballistics to disperse them? And I know you mentioned milkweed, which we have here in Montana, but I thought of peas being another example of a kind of plant that uses that ballistic dispersal. So it'll kind of dry out and heat up in there, and as it heats up, it expands. And then once it gets dry enough, it just kind of blows them out. So it's a really cool way to disperse seeds. And it looks like somebody else was asking, do we have to do this now or later? Bailey, what do you think's the best idea for them?
I think it is, well, at least in Missoula, it's a beautiful day. So I think if you were going to do it now, I would definitely suggest gathering your materials and going outside if you can to make your seeds, to try them sooner than later. I know I like to do things as soon as I can just so I don't forget.
Awesome. And then somebody else was asking, have you personally made a seed? And it looked like you had maybe that one with the onion skin. Did you try it with anything else?
I did try putting it on this wax paper, and I have one that I rolled into foil. And I can stand in the same spot and blow them real quick and then let you guys know how these three go. The foil did not go very far.
Yeah. Huh?
That one went pretty far. I don't know if you can see where my hand is now. If you can imagine where it is, it's right over where it went.
Awesome.
So of the three that I made, the onion skin went the farthest. And I think that I might try to cut them all to be the same shape so I can test them against each other a little bit better.
It's probably a good idea. Or test them multiple times. Take an average.
Well, if nobody has any questions, we'll let you all get outside and start testing your seeds. Thank you all so much for joining us today.
Thank you guys. Good luck.